What's up, meatbags? I am the often imitated, never duplicated Tony TGD coming at you with the first video of the new year. That's right, this is the first video for the channel. We're going to go at a hot topic, something that's been on my mind for quite a while. It's the Snyderverse, and more specifically, the Snyderverse fandom. Now, I know I hang around with some people that are Snyderverse fans. I talk to them. I consider some of them friends. And I just noticed there's a level of cognitive dissonance with these people. You'll hear them say things like, you can only trust the official. You can't trust the official. You can't just trust the official statements. We got the Snyder Cut released. We got it done. So, official statements saying that there's going to be no continuation. They don't mean nothing. You can't trust the official because they said there wasn't going to be a Snyderverse, and then there was. So official statements don't hold water. Well, it's kind of funny because it was in an official statement that announced the release of the Snyder Cut, wasn't it? It wasn't like Zack Snyder somehow snuck into, the satellite. He got HBO Max, he hacked it, and he released the Snyder Cut, on some kind of pirate channel, and everybody got to see it. No, it was an official announcement by the WB because they were looking to make money, specifically off of HBO Max. Because, the numbers were flagging. They weren't getting the subscribers they wanted. And they knew that the Snyder Cut was going to get people to fucking subscribe. And it worked. It got people to subscribe. They made a little money off it, a little profit off of your backs. But they said they're not going to make a further Snyderverse, movie. So that's it. That's the end of it. We did your favor. We released the Snyder Cut. Go home. It's all over. And now, a lot of people can't handle it. A lot of people say that's it's wrong. They can't do that. WB needs a huge franchise. They need it. They need these movies to compete with Marvel. Why? Why does WB need these movies? I mean, sure, WB wants to make money, but that doesn't make a need for a specific type of movie. It doesn't make a need for them to have something to compete with Marvel. I mean, DC fans and Marvel fans, we got this little rivalry. We got this little, friendly thing going where we jab you, they jab us, whatever. But, the studios, they're not like that. Warner Brothers Studio and Marvel Studios, they're not fighting with each other. They're not, in this rivalry. They don't care about one another. They care about themselves. They care about making that money. And if making good movies makes them money, that's what they'll do. If making big franchises, big blockbuster hits makes them money, that's what they'll do. If a huge crossover makes them money, that's what they'll do. And unfortunately for Snyder fans, Justice League just did not perform well. It did not perform up to expectations. And now you can say, those expectations were unreasonable. They were, set too high. They set the bar too high for what they were expecting. So of course they didn't meet them. Well, that's too bad. I mean, you're not in charge. I'm not in charge. Hamada's in charge. And if Hamada says they were expecting a certain level of financial compensation for their time and effort, and they didn't receive that, well then, boo-hoo for you, they're not going to do it. And that's really the bottom line. The bottom line is, as long as Walter Hamada is the guy, as long as he's calling the shots, and he's saying, this is what we're going to do, this is the direction we're taking, well, then that's exactly what WB is going to do. That's exactly the direction they're going to take. Now, of course, there is a merger looming overhead, and things might change, but we're not there yet. We can speculate, we can hope, we can say, hey, if only, this Discovery merger goes through and Hamada's out and some friendly Snyder bro gets in, everything will be gravy. Sure, we could say that. And that's fun to speculate. It's fun to run these scenarios. But that does not discredit the current atmosphere. That does not make what is currently the fact that there is not going to be a continuation of the Snyderverse untrue. And that's what these people need to realize. That's what some of my friends need to realize. Currently, there are no plans to continue the Snyderverse. Currently, WB does not want to continue Zack Snyder's vision. Despite all your little hashtags, despite all your videos, despite all your hopes and wishes and dreams, WB has decided they do not want to continue the Snyderverse. Now, What does that mean? Does that mean there isn't going to be one? Well, I don't know. I can't see the future. I am not a fortune teller any more than you are. But I can tell you currently, right now, as of 5:39 p.m. on January 1st, 2022, there's going to be no Snyderverse going forward. Now, in an hour, they can make an announcement saying that they changed their mind. Sure. Then you could report on it. Then you could, mock me and say all the things you want. But currently, right now, that's not happening. And you gotta realize it. You gotta own up to that. You gotta say, you know what? I realize that today there is gonna be no Snyderverse going forward. Here's what I hope. Here's what I want. Here's what I think could happen if XYZ. That's fine. That's totally acceptable to do. But when you start dismissing facts, when you start telling people that, it doesn't matter what Hamada says, it doesn't matter what WB announces, and I don't care if Ben Affleck says he's done with IPs and franchises. No, because that doesn't matter because we're gonna get it. It's gonna happen. You guys gotta believe hard enough. Well, then you start to get into that little cult mentality. Then you're starting to go a little bit religious with this stuff. You see, religions, they work on faith. Faith is not something you can see. It's not tangible, right? It's something you believe in your heart. And that's what we're going on here. That's what we're getting at. Snyder Bros starting to be a little faith driven, not results driven, not facts driven, but faith driven. If you believe hard enough, if you just will it into existence, it'll happen. But unfortunately, that's not the case. That's not how the universe works, gentlemen. Now, I will not dismiss that the Restore the Snyderverse campaign didn't have some effect, because it did. It had the effect of telling WB, hey, we can make some easy money by throwing it on HBO Max and releasing the Snyder Cut. That's the effect it had. And that's the effect that you guys have to realize and own up. You did not browbeat Walter Hamada and WB into releasing the Snyder Cut. They did not, cower in fear over the hashtag. They simply saw an opportunity to make money and they took it. Now, going forward, if their plans do not, pan out, if these movies bomb in the future, they might come back to the well and say, hey, I guess we need to call up Snyder and, do a sequel. Let's get the ball rolling. That's quite possible. But we're not there yet. We're not at a point where we can say, hey, this is what they should do, or this is where they're going to go, or this is the best route forward. We're not there yet. And you got to realize that. And I know you guys got to call me a hater, Snyder hater. And it's true, I don't like the Snyder Cut. I don't like Justice League. And Batman vs. Superman was terrible. And don't even get me started on Man of Steel. Okay? But that has nothing to do with what I'm saying here. That's not relevant to the discussion. What's relevant to the discussion is that WB, the IP holders, the owners of the franchise, the people in charge, the people calling the shots are saying it's not going to happen. And yeah, it doesn't matter if Ben Affleck's not coming back because you could replace him. You could recast anybody and still continue the Snyderverse. That's true. But there's no indication right now that that's happening. Now, Zack Snyder posting pictures with posters in the background and books in the background and turkeys and no turkeys and fucking dark sides of turkeys. I don't give a shit. None of that matters because Zack Snyder does not own the IP. Zack Snyder is not contracted to continue the IP. Zack Snyder has no say in what happens in the future. Now you need to realize this. You need to own up to it and say, hey, this shit is not happening currently. Here's how we can make it happen. If you want the Snyderverse to happen, if you want a continuation of the Snyderverse, you need to identify the problem. And the problem is there is no Snyderverse coming, right? There's no future Snyderverse. So you got to identify, you got to realize it and own up to it. Say there is no Snyderverse. Now you got to say, well, how do we get the Snyderverse to keep going? How do we make it happen? Well, that I don't know. And that is for you guys to figure out, those of you who want it. But if you don't own up to the fact that there is no upcoming Snyderverse, there is no Justice League 2, Zack Snyder, Electric Boogaloo, then you're never going to get it. Because you are living in a fantasy land. You are living in a world where you're hopped up on copium, and the amount of salt that will come in the coming years will be legendary as Zack Snyder rides off into the sunset with no Justice League 2. Because your hope, your dreams, and your wishes do not mean shit to WB. But that's all I got to say about that. You know, we do it on the channel. Love, peace, booty grease. I'm out this bitch.